right now. Dan is the founder of Save Democracy in America. Dan, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
It's so good to be with you again, Bill.
Well, I appreciate your time. And we start to talk about the debate. We know over the weekend the Biden family got together. Of course, Jill et al. Came out and fired up and say, we're with Joe all the way. But I'll tell you, I'm seeing Democratic donors. Wealthy people are wealthy for a reason. They're smart about where they invest their money. They're not going to put their money on a dead horse in a losing proposition. If they do, it won't be to the level that they would have if they had confidence in Joe Biden. But if they do, it'll be for the same reason that they supported Hillary Clinton, that they're just putting a bet on the come line, so to speak, is that, maybe not now, but their next shot, it'll be up to the Democrats to make it up to them. This is why Joe Biden opened up the coffers so dramatically and put us into inflation in order to pay off these political debts that were owed back in the Hillary campaign, right?
Well, I mean, I have no doubt that this is so much driven by money. And what's also sort of amusing about the reporting that I've been reading about this is all the Democratic donors expressing all this hurt and outrage and anger that the campaign didn't reach out to them immediately after the debate to
Mhm.
reassure them and to tell them it's we're your customers. You're not providing us with customer service here.
Exactly.
Um, and then all this news coverage about and altogether, there's so much news coverage about what the donors are going to do or not do. And you're quite right to pick up on it. And it makes sense to have this coverage because it is decisive. You
Yes.
can't, you can't, you don't have a shot at winning national office without raising ungodly sums of money. And at the same
Mm.
time, they all speak about this as if this is perfectly acceptable for someone to have massive influence in our politics
Mhm.
because they've got money, because they can write a check.
Right.
And my voice and yours are irrelevant.
Right. Well, the downline Democrats are nervous. I mean, their knees are knocking because their standard bearer is so compromised. This will clearly have an effect downline. And as we've been saying for quite a while, people want to blame Joe Biden, for the policies and the injury that he's done to everyday Americans. And I say, look, it's not just Joe Biden, it's the entire Democratic Party apparatchik. I mean, look at legislatively. These people, these senators and congressmen have voted lockstep for these policies. In most cases, I think 97, as high as 100%, Dan.
Well, and because my campaign against money in politics is nonpartisan, I'm not going to agree or disagree with your characterization of the administration's policies.
Mhm.
I can't do that. I'm not saying that you're wrong, however.
Right.
Um, but on the other hand, I would, I think it is also clear that because the folks in Washington answer only really to their donors, who are their true
Right.
constituents, and not to us, we're going to get policies that are not helpful to us in all kinds of ways.
Right. Well, Dan, I'm sorry. I don't mean to put you in any situation there.
No,
So
yeah, I'm not complaining.
right. Well, with due respect, I mean, I appreciate you coming on, and your perspective is needed here. And I want to make sure you have the venue in which to do so, without any kind of liability. But getting back to the debate, it was quite clear. And, first of all, even when, President Biden first entered the stage and even when he left, I mean, this is some of the footage that wasn't seen. It was captured afterwards when Joe Biden was being helped down some, really minor steps by his wife, Jill Biden. And it really added to this worsening perception about the president's frailty.
No, but the other thing about this bill is that's so unreal about this whole conversation is that all these people in the political class, all the pundits, the party elders,
Mm.
how surprised they're acting.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but I've been watching Biden at the podium for the last 6 months, and
Mhm.
it has been so obvious that the man is exhausted. And there's no shame in that. At 81 years of age, 50 years of public service, 3 years bearing the heaviest responsibility a human being can bear, the man is exhausted. He's at the end of his tether. And
Yes.
yet, and the American people, we the people are no fools. We have eyes, and we the people have been saying, and you see this in polls going month after month after month, large majorities of Americans saying he's too old. He can't
Mhm.
serve another term. He must not serve another term. Majorities of Democrats, not just of Republicans, and altogether. And yet the party ignores the sentiments of the voters. And altogether, you look at the way the Democratic Party, which claims to champion democracy, has
Mhm.
conducted its nominating process in a thoroughly undemocratic fashion.
Right.
Already 2 years ago, Democratic voters, 2/3 of them saying, we don't want Joe to run again.
Mhm.
And instead, what do? All the people who should have run against him all agree among themselves, we're not going to challenge him. And the party establishment and its donors, they arrange a Biden coronation.
Yes.
And now they're reaping what they have sown.
Exactly. Exactly. They've really created this mess. It is solely of their own doing. And like you said, the credibility of these Democratic leaders, I mean, whether it's, Chris Coons, Kamala Harris, look, I get it that you want to support your home team. But when you repeatedly, I think there has to be a way where you can still, maybe have some plausible deniability when you're supporting Joe Biden's frailty. But when you come out repeatedly, hey, I just met with him. He's sharp as a tack. He is like a 20-year-old, and you hear all this rhetoric, and you see this, in front of God and everybody, video footage, and it's not just the American people; it's our adversaries, Dan, that are seeing this. And of course, the White House answers, "Oh, don't pay attention. Those are cheap fakes, right?"
Well, I mean, you're right. And it's not just a question of denial. It really has been among a lot of the political class, and it's a very large number of people because it's also their media allies. Everyone's sort of agreeing to go along with this. And it's interesting. Is this a deliberate lie on their part? I'm not even entirely sure that's the case. I think part of it is just that the folks in Washington on both sides of the aisle have been living for so long now, Bill,
Mhm.
in a millionaires or perhaps more accurately billionaires bubble with the
Yes.
massive campaign donors and the lobbyists the donors have hired. They are just completely out of touch
Mhm.
with the American people. They have no sense of how much of a struggle daily life has become for so many American families and has been for such a long time. And because the donors are their constituents, those are the people they listen to. We, the
Right.
people, are now a nuisance. We're a necessary evil. They need their
Exactly.
votes. They need our votes to get into office, but they listen
Got to
to
go
us
to
as
break. More from Dan after this. Stay with us.
Independence. We honor and thank those who've served in our military. Many have made sacrifices to protect our country, including their health. Veterans are twice as likely than those who haven't served in the military to develop ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. ALS is a neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord, causing patients to lose the ability to walk, speak, and swallow on their own. Veteran Elizabeth Fassler lives with ALS and is helping to raise awareness about this incurable disease.
I was honored to serve my country, and now I serve in a different way by sharing my story of living with ALS and spreading awareness among veterans. I think it's important for people with ALS to feel connected with others, and I hope my story inspires more veterans with ALS to become part of the Share Your Story community. To hear more stories from people living with ALS and to learn more about the opportunity to share your story, visit shareyouralsstory.com/radio.
This message is sponsored by Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-745-9090. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-745-9090. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-745-9090.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
Hi, everyone. Michael Horn for GetTheTea.com. Summer heat getting to you? Go to GetTheTea.com and take advantage of their first ever semi-annual sale on all of their herbal cleansing teas. Buy two, get 1 month absolutely free. Get the Tea is available in natural, peppermint, pomegranate, and senna, the added strength cleansing tea. Go to GetTheTea.com. Enter the code MikeT and receive free shipping, too. GetTheTea.com is a family-based and owned company that has been in business over 15 years. They also carry unique supplements that you won't find in stores for your immune system, your glucose levels, and vitamins, too. GetTheTea.com. It's one of the best sales of the year, so don't wait. Buy two, get one free. Go to GetTheTea, T-E-A, GetTheTea.com. Enter the code MikeT for free shipping. GetTheTea.com. Mike T is your code. Go to GetTheTea.com.
Hey, welcome back. 14 minutes before the top of the hour. Bill Martinez here. Dan McMillan continues with us. He's the founder of Save Democracy in America. You know, Dan, you talk about the disconnect of these bureaucrats based out of probably the wealthiest zip codes in the country right now, and they're ill affected by these policies. You say they're in these billionaire bubbles that has really blinded them to what the majority of Americans are suffering under. And their distortion of reality is a result of where they are right now. And they may find out the hard way that, it's like that, what was it, the cellular, advertisement. Can you hear me now? Maybe after November. Huh? What do you say?
That is a wonderful analogy, Bill. Thank you for that. I won't forget that soon. That's terrific. Yeah, I mean, of course, I wish I could say this were only on one side of the aisle, but I think the fact is that the folks in Washington on both sides of the aisle, they've been for so many years now, because the fundraising demands are so extreme, and fundraising, the number one talent every politician's got to have now. We're an afterthought, and they've been listening to their donors for so long that. To me, one of, I guess, in a way, the most interesting story of this cycle has been the eagerness on the part of the establishment of both parties to delude themselves, to engage in magical thinking, right? Mm-hmm. But it's more extreme in the Democratic side, because the Democratic magical thinking is that Biden is not too old, and that Harris, his running mate, is not a liability to the ticket. Right. And how they convince themselves of this in the face of all evidence, in the face of the lack of enthusiasm from their own voters is remarkable. On the Republican side, the magical thinking was that Republican voters who already 8 years ago said enough to establishment candidates, mm-hmm. and didn't just reject established candidates, but cheered President Trump on as he just laid waste to these establishment candidates one after another with the demeaning nicknames and all of that. Yeah. That these same voters who have had enough with the political establishment altogether, who want some kind of change pretty clearly, are going to flock to same old establishment candidates like Haley and DeSantis, mm-hmm. In 2024. And even after it became and you already saw, last year, once it became clear that these indictments did not weaken President Trump politically, but if anything, strengthened him.
Exactly.
And I think they did because his voters see he has positioned himself and he has seen as, and I think correctly, as an outsider. They see him as challenging the establishment, as someone who may bring some change here. Once I saw that happening last year, I said, the race for the Republican nomination is over. And I could have told them to save their money. And instead, the party's mega donors, first they would spend money like water for Ron DeSantis, who's a terrible candidate. And then when he turns out to be the losing horse, then they spend money like water propping up Nikki Haley, whose poll numbers never budged among Republican voters. But in the case of the Democrats, they have really put themselves in a terrible situation now by doing this.
Well, Dan, interesting. I had met with, some Republicans in South Florida in West Palm Beach 3 years ago. And this, this question, just what you presented, was posed. And I was, just immediately responsive to that and just saying, you can't compete with Trump. I don't believe that this is the time for Ron DeSantis or anybody else. Trump is such a power force. And so you and I agree, with that reality. And it's proving out that Donald Trump, and this is why the Democrats are so afraid of him, because of what he represents. What he represents is, taking this seat of power and control that they've been able to have over our country under 8 years of Obama, 4 years now with Joe Biden. And, I think it's going to be interesting, Dan, because when Trump, if he's reelected and comes in, whatever he does, I mean, when you have new management, you've got to change things around. And the media is already setting up the body politics to say that, well, Donald Trump is doing this because he's a dictator and because this is his form of revenge and retribution that he's getting for all that they put him through. No, this is setting the chairs up and the tables right so that we can have an efficient government, right?
Well, I can't endorse President Trump or oppose him, and I frankly do have my criticisms of him. But I guess what I would say, what for me the most important issue is that in this, here we are supposed to be a democratic republic, and the fact is that of the two parties, here's the Democratic Party has their top line argument has been only we can save American democracy from Donald Trump, and yet they conduct their nominating process in a positively anti-democratic fashion, right? They ignore their own voters. Said 2 years ago, 2/3 of them, we don't want him to run again. Doesn't matter. We arrange a Biden coronation. We suppress, we deliberately delude ourselves or somehow repress the recognition that he is too old, that he's visibly frail, that the voters are saying he's visibly frail because the voters are no fools. And on top of it all, that they have offered really very little, almost nothing in the way of a positive message. Although that's actually a bipartisan problem.
Right.
Both parties effectively are mostly talking about the world will end if the other guys win. That said, on the Republican side, you had a true, more or less democratic nominating process, and the candidate who had the support of Republican voters became the nominee. And surprise, surprise, it seems clear that the Republicans are on their way to victory. I'm not saying I particularly like that or dislike it, but I think that's the fact here.
Right. Well, Dan, you bring up a point here that I hope people are catching, and that is that the donor class has diluted the voice of the American people. And I think this is what's happening, and we need to restore the voice of the American people and what this government was designed to do as a democratic republic. One of the things that you reported here earlier last week, certainly after the debate, was the results from political strategist Frank Luntz and the post-debate polling. Break that down for us. We've got about 4 minutes left. Go ahead.
Well, in particular, he did a focus group during the debate with 12 independents who were also going to be in swing states, because ultimately they say this election will be decided by about 6% of the electorate. You know,
Right.
people in the middle, undecideds in a half dozen swing states. And it was devastating. Pretty much all of these voters said by the end of the debate, I may not like Trump, but there's no way I'm voting for Biden. The man is falling apart. And then there was also, as well as polling, actual surveys that check the numbers, and it's the impact among independents in particular is devastating to the Democratic ticket here.
Yeah, and this was it was very powerful. His his polling of these independents, because it's kind of hard to refute. I mean, this isn't hey, look at a different type of perception. I mean, this is really obvious, and like I said, there's more subtle things that we're becoming more aware of what took place during the debate. And this is why, I mean, I have recommended, of course, this is me being political, not you, that Donald Trump not do another debate, that he just leave that bad taste of that first debate, even though, Barack Obama says everybody has a bad debate. Bad debates happen. It happened to him. But regardless, I mean, the impression of this debate, this wasn't just a bad debate. This was horrific.
I think as a matter of tactics, your advice seems very sound. And when I hear all of these people getting up the public face of the Democratic Party with these rationalizations about everyone has a bad debate, it's kind of like the fable of the emperor's new clothes,
Right?
Where the emperor, we've seen, on all of us have seen now, 80 million Americans have seen on national television that the emperor is buck naked. And here's Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and various other and Democratic strategists. They continue to talk about this wonderful double-breasted Armani suit that the president is wearing. And, oh, look at the beautiful Hermes tie with the matching pocket square. And, oh, doesn't he look great? And it's such an insult to the intelligence of the American people. But then again, the folks in Washington on both sides of the aisle, since they spend all their time with their Ivy League educated donors, they have no respect for our intelligence. They think we're all children. We're all
Right.
idiots.
Exactly.
We're not. And they're going to learn that in November in a very brutal fashion.
Yeah, it was interesting, getting back to the Luntz poll, you had 12 of the 14 in that group swung. I mean, they were first undecided. 12 of the 14 after that debate swung to Donald Trump. And also there was, a poll by YouGov that you talked about on last Friday that said 49%, including 30% of Democrats, said the Democratic Party should nominate someone other than Biden for the presidency. Woo.
That is absolutely right. And it's not too late, and yet they keep saying it's too late, but the delegates at the convention could make this decision. They could choose another candidate if Biden steps aside. But then they say, oh, we can't do that. That could be a free-for-all. Well, really? Do they have so little control over their own behavior that they couldn't actually get together and agree on a nominee? But that's another problem and another conversation for another day. It's another kind of dysfunction in our very dysfunctional system.
Well, he's the founder of Save Democracy in America. Dan McMillan has been with us. Dan, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much, Bill. Take care.
BBS Radio TV,